All right, had to get a good sip of coffee in there before I could start talking, get my voice all ready to go. Hey everybody, I am Sam Haymart, and this is Growing Older Gay's Kitchen Table, episode 43. Kitchen Table is where I take my weekly sit down and tell you what's going on at my kitchen table, as well as the kitchen table of the LGBTQ plus fishbowl that I find myself in. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. And today, well, we're talking about out-of-pocket costs for PrEP, DoxyPep, now that Obamacare coverage is starting to dwindle a little bit because of recent changes. We're going to be talking about being a travel hoe. Ever heard that term? Well, we're going to talk about it. It's a phenomenon. And we're going to talk a little bit about the measurement of self-worth in a world full of social media telling us what we should be measuring ourselves by. I also want to mention before we get into our episode today that we are now on Amazon Podcasts and iHeartRadio for our podcast, YouTube, all of the other places that you can find us, and now Amazon and iHeart. So we just recently added our podcast to those. So pretty much everywhere where you can get a podcast. So we always start with a daily meme, which is from our social media, which is all the major four food groups of important social media. That is Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. We don't do the X because it's just wrong. And today's daily meme is simply this: I am not what I own. Now that sounds sort of hackneyed, a little bit contrite maybe, and maybe even simplistic, but it means a lot to me as a person that's been through enough life to learn a few lessons and be in a few different places. And the bullet points start with the simple fact that my value as a person is not based in my material possessions. Now, I'm a person of modest means. I am not an A-gay with a Land Rover out in my garage. I am not an A-gay with a pedigree on my wall. I'm not an A-gay with a big bank account. And you will certainly not see pictures of me traveling all over Europe with my man in a Speedo on my Instagram and any of those other things, because that's not who I am. However, there has been a time in my life that I was pretty wealthy. I had a big house on the hill behind the gates, backing to the golf course with a 6-car garage, and a time essentially that I was able to pretty much have anything that I wanted. And a lot of the things that I thought that I wanted out of life, I had at one point in time in the material sense. And what I have to tell you from that experience is it did not make me happy. I was not a happy man. In fact, that period in my life, for a lot of different reasons, not just the fact that I had a lot of material wealth stacked up, that was one of the most miserable times of my life. And it was one of the most harrowing times of my life, because the more of that stuff I got, I found myself paranoid and worried about losing it. What am I going to do to keep it? What am I going to do to get more? That's what life became about, was the constant battle to hold on to everything as well as look for the next thing, because I wasn't happy. Now, that's not to say that it's not good to be rich. It's not good to have a lot of nice things. It's not to say that it makes life easier sometimes to have money in the bank and you don't have to worry about paying the bills. But those things alone do not make us a better person. They don't make us happy. I see a lot of people in my community, and I know a lot of people who are fixated on what they see other people doing, what they see other people have in social media, and they're measuring themselves against that. It's one thing to measure yourself against the guy that's posting the gym selfies because he's ripped, he looks good, and how am I ever going to get that? How am I ever going to attain that? Well, it's the same hunger when it comes to material possession, because we see a lot of these same guys posing next to their exotic supercar, their Mercedes. They're in a European country on the beach on their latest vacation, and they're just always in that role. That's where they're at. That's what they're doing. And we look at ourselves maybe in our apartment. Like myself, I live in a modest apartment in an urban area. I don't have my own home. I don't own my own home. I don't have a 6-figure bank account, and I certainly don't have a 6-figure job. I today, as I sit, am the happiest I've ever been in my life. And that gets to, what is my standing in the world? What is my worth? To other people, who the hell knows? And at some level, who the hell cares? Because I don't measure myself by what other people think. I sit here in front of this camera every week and I tell you what's on my heart. I tell you what I think. I don't spend a lot of time worrying about how you react to that. Do I like it when I get feedback that is positive? Of course. But am I doing it for that? No, not really. I'm doing it because I enjoy this. And even if I only get a handful of viewers, I'm good with that. What I will tell you is that this hasn't been an easy place to come to. It's taken a good several decades of my life through trials and tribulation to have the highs, to have the lows, to come to the understanding that what makes me feel good, what makes me happy, what gives me peace is having self-worth and love inside. And I've got that on the bullet point here. My happiness and self-worth is directly proportionate to my love for myself and others. I have to love myself before I can love others. I have come to love myself because I have worked on all of the things that I used to hate about myself and come to accept the things that are just who I am and I can't change. And I'm okay with where I'm at in the world. That enables me to then be okay with what's going on in the rest of the world and where I'm at in relation to the guy down the street, my neighbor across the street who's got a Tesla Cybertruck that I can see sitting here. Now, never mind the fact that every time I see that truck, I just think of a bozo wild nut job on drugs with a chainsaw going to our government agencies. That's what I think when I see that, but he's pretty proud of his truck and he's got a really nice house and I'm looking at it right now as I look out my window. He might be pretty happy, maybe he's not, I don't know. But I'm not judging him by the truck that he drives, even though I probably should, because only assholes drive Teslas these days. Ooh, I'm gonna get in trouble for that. Ouch. Sorry if you drive a Tesla, and I have friends that drive Teslas, but I'm getting into the weeds. Self-worth is something that you have to start with inside and build outward with. And it has nothing whatsoever to do with what you own, how much money's in the bank, the pedigree you might have on your wall. A lot of people with those things will believe that those things make them better than you or me, but it just simply isn't true. So there it is, my do-gooder comments for the week. And if I really stepped in it for you with the Tesla thing, I'm so sorry. Sorry, not sorry. It's been long enough that you can fix it, right? Anyway, so now I've got to check in a little bit. My husband and I went to Palm Springs and Cathedral City last weekend. Our goal was to go down and do some leather shopping because here in Phoenix, we don't have a significant leather shop here in town where you can go and really see a lot of variety, get a lot of quality, and have custom stuff done. We went to Rough Trade Gear down in Palm Springs. They also have a store in Los Angeles. And my husband had to get a new leather vest and one that would fit a new patch that he got for his leather club that he joined. And so we basically decided to build a getaway weekend around that. We went down on Friday and my husband wasn't part of it. I booked a cheap motel and ouch, boy, did I make a mistake. And I should have known better. But I was trying to save money. I was trying to be a miser. So I got on, a website that has lots of hotels and motels, and I booked the Motel 6 downtown in Palm Springs. Okay, that was a mistake. I'm telling you right now, because we got there and it was nice enough. It was clean enough for a Motel 6. It was better than some of them that I've stayed in. But what I should have already known, because it's a common known thing in most of our circles, is that this Motel 6 was the center of the tweakerverse, which means all night long, the train kept rolling all night long, which is to say that if you pulled up Sniffy's, which I did, and I looked, it was the hottest spot in town all night long with guys in the rooms waiting to put out. And you know what that means if you've been around the gay scene. Those people are high on meth, and people were walking by our room, revving up cars, parking, coming and going, shouting, hanging out in the parking lot all night long. We got zero sleep. And it was a little bit triggering because my husband and I both are in the recovery community, and it would just made us uncomfortable to be in that environment where I just should have known. I should have known. So Motel 6, downtown Palm Springs, center of the tweakerverse. Well, the good news is we checked out of that place, and the next day, Saturday, we spent the night at CCBC, the Cathedral City Boys Club, which is a clothing optional gay men's resort. And that was a wonderful experience, and it always is. We've been there a lot of times. We should have just gone there in the first place. It does cost quite a bit more than a Motel 6, but it is a beautiful environment. It's a little bit further away from downtown. The cost of entrance keeps out a lot of the drug activity. It's not to say it doesn't exist there, but the upshot is there are a lot of play spaces in and around the property. There are dedicated buildings and play spaces around the property for getting together with the men who are also hanging out there. And we had a wonderful time. It was absolutely gorgeous weather for the weekend in Palm Springs. It was warm enough to be out at night, which we did. And we met a lot of nice guys and a lot of people from around different parts of the country and a few people from other parts of the world. So that's always been my experience at this location. And I have to tell you that of all the places in Palm Springs and Cathedral City that are clothing optional resorts, and there's fewer of them now because I heard one of them just closed recently. CCBC has put a lot of money into the facility in the last couple of years. When you come to check in, from the first time I went there, it was a tiny little office sort of buried inside a little bit. Now you walk into a beautiful bar restaurant and it's clean and modern. They've really spent the money and kept the place up. They also have an on-site restaurant. They have an on-site bar, and they have a concierge that's open all night long. So if you get up in the middle of the night and you need a snack, you need something to drink, you can walk down there and you can get something to eat and something to drink. And they have a lot of nice treats in addition to the food service that they have during the daytime hours. So it's a beautiful place to be. I highly recommend it. They're not paying me for this. I'm doing this purely on the free because I like the place, and it was so much better than the Tweakerverse Motel 6. So that was what we did over the last weekend, and we really had a good time. It's nice to get away and do these things. And that gets me to our next topic here, which is the phenomenon of lowered inhibitions when we travel. We become travel hoes. My husband and I, we become travel hoes. I mean, it's not to say that we're not hoes here in our own hometown, but when we go to another city to get away and have a good time, we tend to really go all out. And so we were at CCBC, which is a play space with hotel rooms. We were hoes. We played around and had a good time with a lot of different men, beautiful men. We did a lot of things. We really sort of let ourselves free. It was liberating. It was beautiful. We had a wonderful time. But whenever we do these things and we're on our way back home, the conversation always goes to, boy, why don't we do that at home more often? And the fact of the matter is, here at home, in the city where we live, we have all the same opportunities here, almost. We have play spaces here. There's plenty of opportunity. The apps have the same collections of people. But there is this phenomenon with gay men that when we go out of town, it's hoe time. It sort of made me look at why that is. Why is it that it's okay to raise the volume to 10 or 11 when we go out of town, but we keep it at 5 or 6 at home? Well, for a lot of different reasons. My husband is a professional. He works in a professional space that puts him in front of the public a lot. And so he tends to dial it back and be a little bit more discreet here in our hometown because of who we might run into out and about doing things in the play spaces and the places where play goes on. I tend to just be more discreet at home because there's the same collection of people wherever we go. And when you are in the play spaces, the clubs, when you are on the apps in your own hometown, everything becomes familiar and you tend to have a little bit different template on what you're willing to venture. Oh, I already know that person, been there, done that, or I've heard something about them, or I just don't, we just have a different mentality sometimes. And it is just that. It's usually in our heads, but it's an interesting phenomenon. I just thought I'd talk about. If you have some stories around that or some thoughts about that, I'd highly encourage you to drop some comments if you're watching us on YouTube or on our Substack, or send me an email, sam@growingoldergay.com. We love our user comments, and we're actually going to talk about user comments here in a little bit. I'm going to start reading some of our comments each week and addressing questions, things like that. But we need your fodder. And this is a topic that I want to hear from you. Are you a travel hoe when you go out of town? Or do you sort of keep it close to the vest? Or are you a hoe everywhere all the time? I tend to think that I'm that, but I really notice an increase in the hoedom when I'm out, when I'm out of town. I don't worry about who's going to see me doing what, I guess. That might be it. So now we're going to take a little bit of a break for the potential of a commercial spot, but there probably won't be one. But nonetheless, let's take a break and we'll be right back. We're back. So now I want to talk a little bit about PrEP and DoxyPep, since I was just talking about being a footloose and fancy-free hoe. One of the things that really gives us the freedom and the safety and the peace of mind to go out and be a hoe at will is the availability of medications, not only to treat people that have HIV, but to help us prevent getting HIV and other STIs, that being PrEP and DoxyPep. But something has happened here going into this year that's very important. It's going to be affecting our community, I think, more than people really know. And that is the fact that the expiration of Obamacare funding has left many of us without coverage going into this new year. Renewals for Marketplace are down over 40% going into this year. And as we all know, if we watched the politics going on, Congress did not renew that subsidy going forward for the Obamacare. So for people that are on those programs, those subsidies have gone away. Their premiums have tripled, quadrupled, simply become unattainable for so many people. So essentially the gist of it is there are a lot more people going into this year without health insurance that previously covered PrEP and DoxyPep for them. And so a lot of us out there are going to be without that safety shield. That's very important to know. And the second part of it is because of all the HHS cuts to the programs out there that used to fill that gap a little bit, that's not going to be available to a lot of people. So at this point going forward, for the majority of our community out there, you either have health insurance or you don't. What are you going to do if you really need to have PrEP and DoxyPep in your life? Well, the good news is simply the fact that it's no longer break the bank expensive. And that's really why I wanted to talk about this today, because what a lot of people don't know, and I hear it from people when I'm out doing HIV testing, I ask them, are you on PrEP? They say, no, I don't have health insurance. Well, have you considered just paying for it? It's $30 a month. Did you hear what I just said? PrEP is $30 a month if you go to your local pharmacy and pay for it out of pocket. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. They're still thinking in terms of $500, $600, $800 a month or more. Now, if you are paying for the brand name medication, yes, it is hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month. Descovy, which is the preferred PrEP medication for a lot of people nowadays, is quite the most expensive. It's actually over $2,000 in many cases a month. But Truvada has come way down in price, but the big news is because there are generic versions of Truvada out there, and a lot of them, if you shop online, a lot of local pharmacies, maybe with the use of a GoodRx card or without it, a lot of the online pharmacies, you can actually get it for $30 to $35 a month if you just pay cash out of pocket. Well, guess what? $35 a month is cheap when it comes to the protection that it offers you, preventing you from getting HIV. If you go out to the movies, it's $30. If you go to the bar for an evening, it's well over $30. $30 for a month worth of protection from a life-altering virus. I think that's and $30 a month to go out and be a travel hoe or a local hoe or big hoe, little hoe, whatever kind of hoe you want to be. I think that's a small price to pay. The second part of that is DoxyPep. Well, doxycycline, which is the medication we take after having sexual experiences with people that prevents getting gonorrhea, syphilis, or the other one, which the name is escaping me at the moment, $15 to $30 a month. Same thing, $15 to $30 a month to just go pay out of pocket. So if you don't have insurance, that should not be an impediment for you protecting yourself, because for, $45 to $60 a month, you can protect yourself by keeping these medications in your medicine cabinet. And Truvada, or the generic version of Truvada, can be used for the on-demand PrEP. If you can't afford that every month, buy that $30 bottle, put it on your shelf, and do the 2-1-1 dose regime, which we talked about on a previous episode. Disco dose, PrEP on demand. Google it if you're not familiar with it, but that is a way to do it if you don't want to take it every single day. And of course, doxycycline, You get a bottle of a small quantity of those, and you simply take 2 of those 24 to 72 hours after a sexual experience. That helps prevent those other STIs. So yeah, it's going to be a tough road going forward for many of us in the community, with losing healthcare in some cases altogether. More importantly for some is that this situation is going to affect some people's ability to get HIV medication for those living with the virus. And we will be talking about that in future episodes after I do a little bit more research on what some of the alternatives are, because there are going to be fewer going into this year. That's just a fact. But there are going to be alternatives and ways for people living with HIV to still obtain the medications they need to stay healthy. Now it's time for viewer comments. Yeah, we're going to start this as a regular part of our weekly show. I love interacting with you. I love to hear from you. And I hope that maybe doing these comments will help answer some questions that go deeper, as well as help you feel like you can ask me questions. And so I invite all of you who are watching this on YouTube or listening on Substack, put your comments in there because, well, frankly, I need them to be able to answer them. It helps us engage and get to know each other a little bit and maybe learn a little bit. Now, I will tell you on YouTube, all of our comments that are on that are monitored and they are approved. We don't let people just get in there and troll and say whatever they want, because due to the topic of what we do, a lot of people just like to troll and post hate and negative things. And so all comments must be monitored and approved. But if they're sincere, even if maybe they don't agree with us, they get approved. But if you're insincere, if you're trolling, if you're just being disrespectful, chances are they will not. But this person, this was from our video on Freddie PrEP, on the program of Freddie, which is Go Freddie, which I use for my PrEP medication. I did a little video on that. A person simply asked the question, but is PrEP safe? And the first thing I'm going to tell you is that I am not a doctor. I am not giving medical advice. The following of what I'm going to say is my own opinion, my own experience, and what information is commonly available out there on the internet. And the simple answer is, yeah, PrEP is safe. It's certainly safer than HIV. It's highly effective. It's up to 99% effective at preventing you from getting HIV. It is well tolerated by most people. There are some minor side effects when you first start taking it for some. I did not have any. I've been on PrEP for almost 9 years. I've had 0 side effects, but some people do have stomach upset and some issues adjusting in the first couple of weeks. What's most important to know is that when you have a prescription for any type of PrEP, the many types that are out there, you have to go in every 3 months for testing. They test your liver and kidney function. They test you for HIV. They test you for STIs. So in some ways, this exposes you to a level of testing every 3 months that you might not otherwise have. And that's a good thing. And so they're looking for some of the signs that this medication could be harming you. And there are a couple of common concerns for Truvada in particular, and that is simply that earlier versions of the medication were known in some rare cases for causing kidney issues or liver issues in terms of function, as well as bone density issues in some people. So those are issues that your doctor and you can monitor when you're on the medication. What's good to know is the fact that this was primarily, a decade ago on previous versions of Truvada. Most people who have health insurance have been able to move to Descovy, which is a different variation of the same type of medication that does not have those issues. And a lot of the injectables are not known for having those issues as well. For the most part, yeah, PrEP is perfectly safe. It's certainly more safe than having HIV. And that's my philosophy on that. So I hope that answers your question. You can always email me if you're not watching us on YouTube and putting a comment there, or if you're not listening on Substack, where you can also put a comment. You can email me, sam@growingoldergay.com, with any questions or comments you have, and I'd be glad to address those if they are context appropriate and sincere. So it's leather season, and I like to talk about leather season because I love my leather. I love my leather community. I want to start right out by congratulating Gage Ryder, who just won the title of Mr. Atlantic Leather in Washington, D.C. And I also want to congratulate Brian Hetler. Mr. LA Leather Bear 2026 also took place last weekend in Los Angeles. And both of these guys may have the opportunity to go to IML either this year or next year and compete for International Mr. Leather. So I hope to see those guys in the future. Both handsome bucks. I like to use that term, handsome buck. It's because I live in the Southwest. It's the Wild West out here. I also wanted to mention International Mr. Leather was in the news in the past month because they changed their rules and guidelines. They ruffled a couple feathers with some people out there. Their rule changes are sort of elementary. In my opinion, I think I'm on board with them. Some people not so much, and I read a lot of debate online about these, but essentially what they're doing is raising the bar for eligibility with more stringent vetting guidelines. And this is because they sort of have to reduce the class size. It's growing, getting bigger, and it's getting unmanageable. A number of things that they have done to sort of reduce that and keep it down to a low number. 50 is the number, in fact, that they said they want to hit by 2027. And it's been in the high 60s. They just simply said that we can't do 70 people anymore. We don't have the room for it at our venues. We don't have the dressing room space for it at the venues. In fact, it was mentioned at the press conference at Mid-Atlantic Leather last weekend that they are actually putting dressing rooms in tents out in the alley behind the venue for the 2026 event just to make extra space. And that's not something they want to have to keep doing. They've streamlined the guidelines for what qualifies a title. They don't want somebody making up their own title, making up their own sash and saying, I'm Mr. Googly Goo 2026, and then registering for IML. They want that contest that awards that sash, that awards that title, to be a real contest. And they don't want the same bar or the same club cranking out 3 different titles and sending 3 different people to IML. They want one person per organization, be it a bar, a club, and so on. So they're just sort of narrowing that down a little bit. The other one, and the one that really got a lot of attention, was the fact that you can only compete one time. You can't be that, like in the drag world, and they have these big national drag contests. There are these queens that go back every year and keep trying to win. Maybe they never do. Maybe they finally do at some point. Maybe at some point they go, give her the damn sash so she'll stop coming back. Well, they don't want IML to be that. And there's a lot of people that weren't really happy with this one. And their goal here is that it's one and done. If you shoot your wad, you make it, or you don't, you make room for the next person next year, and you don't keep coming back and trying to redo. And that's really the one that got most attention. And that really gets to the point that they're just trying to get that class size down to a manageable amount, because the contest itself, when you have 65, 68, 70 people, that becomes hours and hours of contests that you have to sit through and that you have to judge and that you have to do. I'm on board with it. So some people might be mad at me. And if you disagree with me, feel free to comment. Feel free to send me an email. Let me know. Tell me why you think it's wrong, and maybe we can talk about it on future episodes. So talking about leather, our event that I want to talk about this week is CLAW 2026, Cleveland Leather Awareness Weekend. It's coming pretty fast, April 2nd through the 5th. Although it is in Columbus this year, not Cleveland, because they lost their venue and it just didn't work out for Cleveland anymore. So they moved it to Columbus. It's now at the Hyatt Regency in Columbus. And it's worth mentioning that this is one of the largest leather events of the year in the national scene, and one that doesn't actually have a leather contest, because it's more about play, learning, and having fun. And so they don't concentrate on a contest and a sash. It's all about the weekend, all about the play and getting together. And it's 2,000 plus leathermen, 2 BDSM dungeons, 118 booths of vendors, and according to their website, 150 plus classes and workshops. And in addition to all that, they've got socials and other parties and ancillary things built around it. I encourage you to go to their website at clawinfo.org to learn all about what's going on. It is a big weekend that maybe if you're new to the leather scene and this is going to be your first leather event, what I've heard from a lot of guys that have gone here is that this is a great first event because of all the education, because of the workshops, and because of the variety of the crowd. All the different subsets of the leather and kink community thrive here. The pups, the rubber, the leather, the BDSM, and way, way more you will find different parts and pieces of this that will appeal to you. And so you can go there and not only learn about different kinks you've never heard of, but maybe glom onto something that really speaks to your heart. The reason I bring it up this week is because the hotel is almost full. And they just posted that this week on their social media. The Hyatt Regency is 80% full. You want to stay at the headquarters hotel when you go to these things. It may cost more, but that's where all the action is. You can go to an ancillary hotel somewhere around the perimeter of this thing, but you want to stay at the host hotel. So go to their website, clawinfo.org. Before you can register for the hotel, you do have to register for the event before you can even get to the rooms. It's coming pretty fast, April 2nd through the 5th. And then I want to do an event save the date because we don't have the full information on it. That is Desert Smoke Palm Springs, June 5th through the 7th, 2026. Palm Springs, this is an event put on by the Palm Springs Leather Order of the Desert, the big leather club down there. This is a cigar weekend social. It's a multi-day get-together with leathermen, smoke cigars, and play together. Have a good time with cigars and men. I so want to go. It's like the weekend right after IML. And it's always hard for me to travel and do things right after IML because vacation time is spent and most of my money's spent. But this is a good opportunity out in the Southwest. There's also the big smoke out weekend, which is in Las Vegas, but that will be long past by then. So this is more of a summer thing that you can do in Palm Springs. As always, you can click on the events tab on our website, growingoldergay.com, for LGBTQ plus gatherings nationwide all year long, and sometimes out of the country. If you have an event you'd like to see featured on our event calendar or even here on the podcast, send me an email at sam@growingoldergay.com. It's real easy to remember. My name's Sam, our website, growingoldergay.com. sam@growingoldergay.com. Did you get that? Shall I repeat it? So that is our episode for today. You can go to our website, growingoldergay.com. You can find our podcast and all of our content there, our social media, all of the major 4 food groups, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. We don't do the X because X is really not a happy place anymore for anyone, let alone the LGBTQ plus community. And our podcast, now on Amazon, now on iHeart, as well as Spotify, Substack, and Apple Podcasts. And most importantly, we're on YouTube where you can see me and you can see what I'm wearing. And I'm wearing this week my leather vest, which is my Mr. S Berlin bar vest with the red piping. Now, I will point out that while I was in Palm Springs this weekend, we went to the Gear Leather store where I bought a matching belt to these armbands and this vest. Nice soft leather belt with the red piping. It's made to match these because they are a retailer of Mr. S Leather. I had forgotten to pack a belt on my weekend down there. I just wanted to get a plain black belt, but I got there and I saw that one and yeah, it was $90, but I just had to get it. So now I have a matching belt. You can't see it because I'm sitting here behind the desk and I'm not wearing pants anyway. So every week you can see us here on YouTube, and the bonus is that you can not only comment, but you can see me. You can see what I'm wearing. And if you are watching us on YouTube, you can click on the big square right next to me and see our latest video, or you can click on the big round logo and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which I really invite you to do. And if you're just listening to our podcast, subscribe to us there and leave us a nice review. Either way, stay tuned.